And here we go into the final four of MSI, the LPL Finals rematch between Anyone's Legend and BLG. I'm Medic, I'm honored to be joined by Azael and ready to kick this one off.
I'm excited to witness this rematch. AL have gotten the better of BLG throughout spring, and I wonder what they've got prepared today. We got some words of wisdom from Knight. They have to control their aggression in the early game. They need time with their setups, and I wonder what approach they're gonna have in the draft and what their plan will be, because things like TF, how high on the ban list is that going to be? Things like the Pantheon, the Varus, something that we've seen often banned from both these sides, and the Pantheon ban on the side of BLG expected, the Gwen ban coming through from AL. A little bit of a surprise, but clearly targeting Bin on the top side.
Yeah, absolutely. Has been really high priority. To me, champions like Taliyah as well have really been shining. I think Taliyah, Ryze, very high prio. Both these champions are these kind of global, semi-global style champions, allow you to attack side lanes, but they are also ones that work really well in the 5v5s, which I think is keeping them at the top of people's priority list.
And alongside that, a support that works really well in the 5v5s is Nico. Both these players incredibly experienced on the champ. An 80% win rate on one side of the Rift, a 92% win rate on the other side of the Rift. Wouldn't be surprised if we see that prio'd early.
With the Rumble banned away, BLG have to make some difficult choices now, because a lot of mid-priority picks are available. The Taliyah that you were just talking about, Azael, naturally rises in priority. Remember, things like the Azir, something we don't often see from Knight, also has to be a big point of priority potentially for AL, but maybe they forego it. Things like the Annie, also really important in the draft.
I feel like it has to be first pick Taliyah. If that's up, it's almost a guarantee. So now we have to find the response. Is it going to be Ryze? Is it going to be Azir? You know, those seem kind of like the answers that I would be looking towards. Grab one of those higher priority junglers to pair alongside it, and then go from there.
I think Ryze is a really good denial pick as well. Shanks has a 91% win rate on it this year. Instead, it is going to be the Azir alongside Trundle, which does push Sion further down in priority.
Exactly. I really like Trundle here because it is a good pairing. It is that AD jungler, but also it is denying some of these blind picks by nature of how effective it is. Like you say, the Sion, the Orin, some of the best blind picks available right now are going to be taken away. Things like Rumble and Gwen, also pretty solid blind picks. Those are gone. I am so not a fan of the Yorick blind. I do think it is very easy to punish, but it has been very popular in the LPL, so we'll see if they are going to lock it in.
The thing that surprises me is that BLG foregoing something like an Annie Wukong, which would very much stay true to their style, and instead prioritizing the Azir for Knight. I'm excited to see how he performs on the champion alongside Beishuan on this Trundle, and with the Yorick locked in for Flandre, world class, one of the best Yorick players in the world. But to pick it blind, as you've already highlighted, a lot of risks associated with that.
And on the other side of the Rift, you have Bin, who has always been willing to pick good counters. Looking back to when he was in his rookie year on Suning, things like the Fiora, the Aurelia would come out when he had good counter picks. Aurelia here would really slap for Bin.
I mean, it would be really crazy if he went for it. I also think there are some very good answers, like just going towards the Sion, like just going towards the Cho'Gath. I think these are great answers to the Yorick. You can go towards something like the Aatrox, but I don't think it's nearly as strong of an answer. Bin, obviously, on the Jax is ultimate comfort. Hasn't been playing it a ton this year, but I don't think we're going to get it. I think we are just kind of waiting for that later pick. Nico, you had already touched on, is so high priority, not only because it has the explosive engage, but because it has an incredibly dominant lane phase. You can play for the 2v2. We, of course, do see that it is Jhin locked in for Hope here, but you can get a strong long-range AD pairing here with Elk, play that poke style in the 2v2, and almost always we see the Nico coming out with early prio.
I mean, I will say, these were not what I was expecting in terms of the priorities for the first picks. The fact that we've just foregone the top lane response from BLG, the not looking in the jungle on the side of AL, things like Xin Zhao and Wukong both still available, neither of them going to be banned away. Instead, the support pool is going to be targeted. Rel and Nautilus removed from the pool alongside the Karma increases the value of this Nico, and now Kael really going to be tested in what else he has in store to try and match up into the Nico.
If you are looking at a support from the LPL who can match up into difficult matchups, it's Kael, best support in the league in a lot of people's estimations. I think his MSI has been a little bit more downplayed than he could have been, but the expectation is here in a series that is basically home turf, he should be able to really shine.
Absolutely, and he doesn't have, all that experience on the international stage here, but we're waiting for Kael and Tarzan. We're waiting for those picks here for AL, and they were kind of the shining stars here, I think, think, on AL in the LPL. This jungle support duo have been absolutely stellar for them. Considering the Corki here, I do think it is a really strong 2v2 if they want to go that way, and I like it quite a lot as an answer here. It's going to be very difficult, I think, for Kyle to grab a support that is going to really give them the advantage, so they may just have to kind of seed the 2v2, play the map, and look elsewhere, because clearly you already have a strong tendency to go towards that Yorick. You want to play towards it, try to prioritize Grubs, enable him in that side lane with the Talia. And I think all of their picks are probably going to be lending towards that. Bard would make a lot of sense if that's the style that you want to play here. You can really get it on the map, work well with whatever jungle does get locked in here for Tarzan. And I think that Bin is going to have a difficult job up here.
Curious as to how AL is going to round things out. They could do with a little bit more engage. I mean, yeah, they could just go for the Xin. I mean, Beishuan locking in the Trundle. He was very much expecting this to be the matchup, but Talia Xin is just such an incredibly potent mid-jungle combo. I mean, again, they have a decent amount of poke on the side of AL with both Jhin and the Talia at your disposal. It means you can just chip away at the HP. Wanting to go for a little bit more team fight power and engage, the Wukong can pair nicely up with the Bard. Cheeky hover of the Camille. I wonder if that's the direction they're going to go. You did contemplate some carries that could be used by Bin.
Camille, I think, is a good matchup into Yorick. I do think you can play things like Fiora as well. Aurelia is incredible. If you want to go tank, you can look towards Cho'Gath because Sion is banned away. Jax, I think, is fine, but you can be poked down a lot easier than some of these other matchups. You know, Yorick, yes, of course, you do still have some auto attack damage coming through, but it has been going towards the tried and true here. He is insanely comfortable on this pick. You absolutely can outscale the Yorick, but I do worry about the early stages. Vondra very comfortable on this Yorick, and I do think it can be a pretty good early matchup there for the Yorick, just constantly poking and prodding away at his Jax. And if he gets put behind, Jaxes really can struggle.
It was only last year that we were saying on the caster desk, this was a champion you couldn't give Bin.
Yeah.
So coming into this tournament, the fact that this is going to be his first game in MSI, you already mentioned it, Azael. He's been moving away from this Jax pick, but when we think about Bin, when we think about his recent history, Camille and Jax were the two champions that many around the world were afraid to give him just because of how talented he was on the pick.
And that's why it has been a bit of a strange thing to watch him in the LPL this split, where it's spamming Rumble, it's spamming Yorick, and it's not really been what we have kind of expected to see from this guy. And to be frank, he hasn't been as dominant as we expect from him either in the LPL. So we'll see if we can get some shades of Gigabin from ages past in Game 1.
BLG have been a shadow of their former selves. They're not the team you expect to make back-to-back finals internationally. They're not the team you expect to push T1 to 5 games. But with the addition of Beishuan, with the changing of coaching staff in the middle of the split, things have started to go towards a more rosy direction. The question for BLG is, can they overcome the hurdle that has been AL for them throughout the entirety of playoffs? Anyone legend on the other side of the rift in their first international tournament, the first international tournament for Shanks, for Kyle. There was a lot of hope in this roster, but trepidation as well. The LPL fans not quite sure yet if AL is who they want to represent them on the biggest stage. Bin's going to path down to bot as he just looks. Oh, it's not Bin, it's on path down to bot, and that's a much more
down
expected.
To bot too. Wow.
Wow, great. They're just all over the map in the early game, aren't they, Azael, as we jump into Game 1.
The nemesis of casters everywhere, Nico.
I will say, I didn't realize this before the game, but in the global power rankings, both these teams on exactly the same amount of points, sitting in 4th place. It's not often we actually see teams that are that tied on those power rankings. Obviously, all algorithm-based, so doesn't always account for every minutiae of League of Legends.
Oh, they actually double warded there, so a little bit of an accident. AL not communicating who's actually going to drop the ward, and it is, of course, spotted by Beishuan. And now Bin going to be able to be a little bit annoying here as Flandre is trying to walk the long way back towards top lane, but Bin is still just kind of zoning him off.
Through the playoffs as well, both these teams meeting up 2 times. BLG taking AL to 5 games on their first attempt. And the second attempt didn't go so well for them. We saw Tarzan cracking out the Z in Game 4, managing to pick up the win. I think for BLG, they'll be hoping this isn't the start of a trend. 3-2, 3-1, 3-0. On the international stage, obviously, BLG have a little bit more pedigree.
Watching back those series and talking with some of the analysts from the LPL as well, my impression of the teams was that BLG was this hyper-proactive team. They love to play through their side lanes, they love to tower dive you. They were always the first to start off a fight around these neutrals. And I felt like AL did such a fantastic job of reading them. as they find a bit of an advantage already in the bot lane 2 versus 2. They just found an effective way of controlling that aggression, and Tarzan just did a fantastic job of tracking Beishuan. Right now, junglers are on the opposite sides of the map, and this AL bottom lane will need to be careful because Beishuan will be heading in this direction, but for now, they're winning out on the trades with this early level 2.
I mean, Hope and Kyle are playing this 2v2 out incredibly well. So aggressive. They use the heal off of Kyle to give move speed to Hope so he can actually get in range for his 4th shot, take a really good trade. You know, multiple times was able to get the big trade in onto Elk, who has already used his potion. Both potions are gone from On as well.
Keep your eyes on Beishuan in the fog of war. He's skipping those bot side camps and he's looking to make his presence known on the bot side already, but Hope and Kyle, they're showing that respect.
They saw him.
He did. Beishuan comes around the corner with the frozen domain, gets the slow onto Hope, looking at the pillar as well. Barrier coming out from Hope, but it's just extinguished. Hope down, first blood BLG.
We talked about it. The jungler was pathing towards the bot side of the map. They should have been more respectful of that possible early gank, but Beishuan draws first blood in the series.
Yeah, neither of them, even with the push there, actually got a ward into the river, not expecting an early gank here from the Trundle, and Beishuan makes them pay for it big time. The fact that it goes over to Elk as well is really going to hurt. The lone blessing is that Elk did at least spend his flash to get that kill, so there might be an opportunity for Tarzan to try to even the score here a little bit later on.
Yeah, Hope holding onto that summon to make sure that he knew he was dead. There was no real reason flashing away, especially with the pillar down in front of him. We see Tarzan pathing down towards this bottom side. Has finished his full clear, so really wants to get a double scuttle. Kyle pushing forward, gets a bit of vision for him to allow that net of safety, making sure that he can seal away these 2 camps from Beishuan, who is still on his blue buff because of the earlier gank.
Yeah, Tarzan going to be able to get this double scuttle, no problem here. And you can see Bin having a good time up in that top lane, does have the HP advantage, still has the extra potion as well, so the early trade's definitely going in his favor. Mid lane just been kind of quietly, both of these mid laners farming away. Shanks, though, got the early tier and has had the push, so going to be comfortable with the position that he's in already.
For the moment, Flandre just getting pushed back a bit, but that mid lane matchup is one I want to highlight actually, because Shanks coming into his first international tournament after joining WE Academy all the way back in 2020, debuting with WE in 2021, has come out and quoted himself saying, it is a long road. You have to go through failures if you want to get towards the victories. Knight, on the other hand, has felt like he has only had victories throughout his career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a result, it's almost more impressive to see, you know, Shanks from where he came to where he is now. So many players in League come in, and when they don't have immediate success, they're just replaced. They can't shine on a bad roster, and they just get overlooked. They're just kind of lumped in with the rest of their team. He was on a 0-16 WE roster. They then went 4-12. And for him to still be able to actually stand out on a roster that is dead last, that is struggling that hard in the LPL, and for him to be able to claw and grind his way up to where, you know, he is now on the precipice of making the lower bracket finals, where he's already top 4 at MSI, where he's won an LPL championship, I think is nothing short of amazing.
And the fact that he was able to outperform Knight in the finals, I think was very meaningful for him as well, considering who Knight is in the LPL now, how dominant he has been for so long. I think is a real testament to the mid lane talent that we continue to see come out of the LPL in recent years.
And honestly, I think Shanks has been stellar at MSI. I felt that he actually outperformed Chovy in their best of 5. I feel like he is actually the best performing mid laner at the tournament thus far. So to me, he really has been standing out. And that's not always the case when someone finally gets their big break, when they finally make it to MSI. Sometimes players do struggle under those bright lights. It's a different environment than you're used to, but Shanks has been able to become acclimated right away and hit the ground running.
And that's no disrespect to Knight as well, because he's had a phenomenal tournament himself. He's been a large part of why BLG is even in this position, and so many games we've seen him have those standout miracle plays. Even in their loss to T1, his Ahri did so much work to make that game much closer than it should have been. So it's a matchup that we're super excited for. Knight on this is here that we don't typically see him on. One of the champions that people often say he can't play is this Azir. So eyes are on this mid lane matchup. Right now there is a 2-goal difference between the two mid laners. Shanks looking for a play.
A good seismic shove will chunk out Knight just a little bit. Kyle here to shadow his mid laner as well, as we see the lane swaps beginning. BLG moving their bot lane up towards the top side of the map.
Exactly, and we're not actually seeing Hope match right now. He is heading back out towards bot lane, so it is going to be these non-standard lanes here with Flandre just trying to stay in range of experience, trying to be around as much as he can to pick up some of the CS.
And what this often means is we'll see a Drake for Grubs exchange over the next couple of minutes. Grubs up in a minute's time. Dragon has been cleared out here by anyone's legend, and you can see a couple of pings coming down on it as well from BLG, expecting it to be started by their LPL counterparts. Flandre forced down a little bit.
I mean, Flandre not able to actually get any of the CS. Look on the other side. The CS gap is actually opening up quite a lot now, as Bin was completely uncontested. He was actually laning 1v0 for quite a long time down there, and just now Hope and Kyle got down, put a little bit of pressure on, but then they're already leaving the lane. So Bin is just having the time of his life, holding the wave by his tower, getting all of this gold, while his counterpart on the other side is not getting anything. And York has to be able to succeed in the side lane to really succeed in the game.
What's really interesting right now is AL, rather than just committing to a cross map and saying we'll just take the Drake, they've actually moved their bot lane to mid. They've gotten the push. They've sent Shanks towards the bot lane matchup. He won't have his TP available just yet, but it will be up soon. And it looks like AL is saying we want those grubs. And this is not uncharacteristic of what we saw in the finals, where there was a lot of fighting over those grubs in particular. AL really values them, and they're going to start this objective off.
Putting the Maiden down as well just gives you a lot more clear on these grubs. Tarzan jumping through them. It's Beishuang doing the Drake, so the exchange has occurred. It's just gone in the opposite direction to how we expected it, as we will see AL picking up the grubs and BLG getting themselves on the board in terms of dragons.
And AL absolutely needed to get the grubs after what they gave up on the bot side. You know, Bin is now so far ahead. 26 CS up, 500 gold is the lead. Plus, there is, you know, a little bit of experience that, you know, Flandre has been able to obviously grab, so he's kept pretty close in that. But Bin really opening up a big advantage and hasn't been under any pressure for these last couple of minutes. Most of the time, he's actually still just been laning 1v0, and now finally they're going to move Hope in towards mid lane after the grubs. It is Shanks that's going to be answering the Jacks, but he's not going to be able to put any pressure on there either.
It's a slower early game, but I don't think either side is particularly upset with how things are panning out. Bin is happily scaling, as Azael was just talking about on the side lane, building up a nice advantage. And Elk also finds himself isolated on the top side of the map, so when I watched back the finals, I felt like AL did a really good job of controlling the aggression from BLG and kind of shutting down a lot of the plays that they wanted to make. But BLG, they're taking this game one calm, collected, and their map movements are clean for the time being.
And AL has put a really high priority on grubs throughout the tournament. Nearly 85% of the total grubs they have actually taken throughout this event. So clearly putting an emphasis on that. And I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when you are playing with Yorick.
Yeah, with the Yorick, you want to be getting that pressure in the side lanes. You want to be trying to get plates early. Hasn't managed to do that in this game, mostly because he has had to deal with this 2v1 lane, and Bin has been very happily just farming up, as you say, 1v0 or 1v1. Now we see Bin pathing out towards top. Shanks will get the push down in the bottom lane, so it looks like Knight is going to be the one who catches that wave. Not too much experience or gold lost on the map here for BLG.
And I think Bin is just going to be so happy with how these early stages have gone for this matchup, because to me, post-6, when you get the Maiden, you really can start playing pretty aggressively in this 1v1 as the Yorick. You can start poking down this Jax, and hasn't had to deal with it whatsoever. And he's nearly at the Triforce, and Beishuang is up here.
Dark Possession down. Flandre needs to walk away because Bin's splashing in with the Grandmaster's Might. Subjugate as well. Flandre holding on to his splash till the last moment. Doesn't get a chance to use it. BLG 2-0 up.
I think Flandre realized that the moment he flashes, that pillar is coming down and he's not getting away anyway, so he just tries to walk it out. Nice gank once again from Beishuang as Kyle looks for a bit of a play in mid, but some beautiful footwork comes through from Elk, and BLG find themselves 2 kills up.
And I mean, this kill is actually so much more painful because when you die as the Yorick like that, now you don't have the Maiden for such a long time. So any pressure that you would have had is completely gone. The kill goes to Bin. He free farmed bot lane for so long, and you know they're nearly going to be able to get a plate. So as soon as he comes back, he'll be able to grab that. He's going to be very close to his Triforce now at this point, and there it is. Already done the Triforce. So Flandre, I already feel like is completely out of the side lane, because by the time he actually completes his first item, Bin is going to be so far ahead.
Still 2/3 of the cooldown remaining on that Maiden as well. It's going to be so hard for Flandre to lane in this top lane. Wave pushing out against him makes it even trickier because his jungler is not on this side of the map right now. Tarzan trying to gain control around this bot side river. Dragon's still 2 minutes away though, so expect to see just lanes crashing back and forth for the next couple of minutes.
Tarzan has spent the majority of this game just focusing on farming up. He's been doing a good job getting close to his Trinity Force as well. You can see that they've been investing a lot of vision towards this bot side of the map with control wards aplenty pretty much throughout this bot side, pretty much to put more pressure on Tonight specifically. Shanks keeping that bot wave pushed in and moving into this fog of war. I like these little wards that BLG have been able to put down just to keep track in the event that Shanks tries to make any sort of ulti play towards the mid lane. And so BLG are kind of responding well to the control that AL is trying to get here in the early games. We transition into that mid-game phase. Dragon spawning in about 1:15. And I wouldn't be surprised if BLG just concede it. Instead, look for a cross map. They don't need to force a fight right now. They're quite happy to scale with the lead that they're slowly building up.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think if you offer this sort of a game state to BLG, they would be so happy to accept it. The fact that you do have the Azir, you have this Jax, and they are just kind of free scaling here on the other side. You know, we haven't been able to see kind of any playmaking come out from Kyle on the Bard. We haven't seen any ultis come out from Shanks on the Talia, even though he has really been the one having the push. So BLG in a great spot here, and I do think it's going to be important that AL are able to be successful in the first team fights when they do actually take them. Wukong is now on Triforce. He is going to be at a really strong point in the game, but they have got to nail their engages when they go for him. Otherwise, I think the game's going to get away from them.
I will say, I take triple Triforce over single Triforce in every single fight. Bin, Beishuan, and Elk have already completed that first item. Knight has a Nash's Tooth as well, while Shanks has gone for the Archangels, but that's still 100 stacks away from giving him the shield. So, although BLG could decide to seed the Drake, although they could decide to not fight it, I actually think in terms of raw power right now, they're definitely in the driver's seat.
I mean, great minds think alike, Medic. I was on the same wavelength with that one as Flandre goes for a bit of a trade and immediately regrets it.
Counter-strike comes in, there's a TP as well. Kyle trying to come up to join this fight, and Bin begins to retreat. Shanks is going to teleport forward. Bin has no flash. Weaver's Wall will lock him on this side of the tower. Tarzan chasing forward as well. Bin with the counter-strike will get knocked up using that Cyclone. Bin still jumping away, but he's caught out. A Tempest finds him as Flandre secures the kill.
This is really nice. Now they can try to rush for first tower here up on that top side. They have the grubs. They're crushing through this tower. They should be able to win, but BLG also a lot of damage on that bot lane tower. They obviously have the Trundle. Not going to be able to get it either way, though. So first tower does go to AL. Yes, they should eventually lose the Dragon down on that bot side, and the tower will be matched. But if you can get this second turret as well, BLG very slow to respond. This one's dead too. AL making a massive play on the top side. That is going to be a huge gold swing.
You'll see the gold swing in their favor, about 300 gold ahead, but about 1,000 across the course of that play. BLG will get their second Dragon, and it was actually AL who decided we don't want to take the fight around second Drake. We can fight around Soul, point around Soul. Elk harassing Hope down here with the Gatling gun. Knight coming in from the side. I think that might be on, actually, with Knight down towards the bottom side of mid. There we are.
And I think it's really, really smart to actually play towards this York. Again, you need to make sure that you are enabling Flandre in that side lane. He's got to be able to compete against Bin, or he's just not going to have much of a purpose in this game. You can't have your York just perma-grouping. So being able to actually get out to that side lane, investing the resources there, you're only giving up a second Dragon. Try to set up for that third.
I also just like that exactly what Medic was saying. You press tab, you look at those items, you're like, ooh, that is 3 Trinity Forces. I really don't want to go for that, and instead we'll just look for the cross-up, and they found an effective one, but BLG, they won't slow down. Realizing that they feel stronger right now, they're going to start off the Herald. AL is in a position to contest. Shanks doesn't have the ultimate, and there's not real any way for them to get good positioning on this fight.
But again, look at bot. Flandre is already working on that tower. Bin's going to have to TP down.
Phase one boosted up there with the deadly flourish. Tempered Fate out as well. Kyle caught, has that Pop Blossom and has a flash. We'll use the flash early to try and escape it as the curtains open. The Shape Splitter will block one, and Elk will block the next. Pop Blossom from on just to make sure the chase doesn't materialize.
Close exchange as AL tried to get some exit kills as BLG were on the retreat, but they're able to secure the Herald and they walk away safely. As AL, you were talking about that bot tower, and AL end up securing it.
Yeah, I mean, Grubs, Yorick, Triforce, that is a recipe for success against the tower. You're going to crush that thing ridiculously fast. So, you know, even if the Yorick is behind, which at this point he is not, he is slightly ahead in gold, you can crush towers. So, you know, they have to be really, really careful. If BLG commit 5 members to one side of the map, they can get punished on the other side. And I do think this is something that BLG has done a lot throughout this tournament, is they will heavily commit towards objectives. They're going to show up, they're going to try to force you to fight, but sometimes that does open up the opportunity for really successful cross-map plays. And I think this is something that at times BLG struggle with in the LPL as well. They don't always have the cleanest objective setups. Sometimes they are a little bit bloodthirsty around those. And as a result, teams that are very smart on how they play the map, like AL, can get advantages.
And sometimes that comes down to synergy as well. We have to remember Beishwan only joining the team this spring, halfway through the split. A change in coaching staff as well with Maokai leaving. So it is going to be a struggle for BLG when you look towards those things that are developed over 6 months, a year, 2 years, and that sort of synergy that AL can have.
And Knight was very frank about that. We saw that in the game day interview that we had from him earlier, talking about he wasn't sure if they had enough synergy built up. Potential dive.
Out, on court up, the Ghouls will chase him with the morning mist, and BLG still able to defend. Drake's still 2 minutes away as well. There is an Artican coming up, but that's up towards the top side.
AL with really good just map play there. They'd gotten the push on the top lane, they had the push on the bot, and so they just collapsed from both sides to attack this mid lane. They were able to do a good amount of damage onto their opposition, along with chipping away at that tower. And it's not necessarily that they heavy committed. Ooh,
Shanks needs to be careful. He's going to get chased down here. The pillar out. The flash forward from Knight still has the Emperor's Divide here. Shanks looking for the movement speed, but just doesn't have enough. Field of Warfare over to BLG.
Just as I was complimenting AL on their map pressure, they stepped too far on the top side of the map. Shanks goes to a space of the map that Knight and Beishwan were ready to punish him on. They get 3 kills, and they're able to find themselves another pick.
Yep. AL now a little bit more on the back foot, 700 gold in the hole. They are still scaling through this game, of course, and it's the first time we've seen Shanks really make a mistake with his positioning. Obviously could have gone the longer way round towards that top lane wave with Beishwan and Knight in the area. They invest the flash, and they take down their enemy mid. Next objective, though, still a minute away, and once again, it's AL with the vision down towards that bottom side. Wards abound for them.
I feel like that Bin and Knight are actually setting up a bit of a freeze. I feel like that wave has been sitting there for Bin for quite a while. And
he's got a 50 CS lead.
You can see that developing in the 2 top laners. Same thing for Knight. I mean, he is just kind of catching the waves as they come, realizing that Yorick is here. He's now going to push that one out. But the timing is good. 40 seconds until the Dragon. They don't overpush. They realize that AL don't really have much of a play on the map. And so they're just picking up what farm they can and then not overextending. What was entirely blue at the bottom of your screen is now shifted entirely to red, as BLG have amounted a 1.1k gold lead.
They'll be really happy with the spot they're in. I want to get towards these objectives first if they can. A good Pop Blossom from out of vision can really spell disaster for AL, who can sit this one out. They don't have to fight for the 3rd Dragon of the game. We often talk about how much pressure it puts on you as a team if you have the enemy team on that soul point.
Yeah, and especially when you are a composition that wants to play through sides, it makes it so much harder, right? When then you're forced to group, no matter what the wave state is, no matter what the item completions are, you would be forced to go there. They're looking for Beishwan.
Kyle going in with the Temper Fate. There's Weaver's Wall as well. The chase onto Beishwan. He's going to start to walk away. Dodges the seismic shove. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Flandre forcing on away. Beishwan trying to trade with Kyle. The redemption will be enough to heal up the Bard. He gets the shutdown with it. On court out as well, as AL are going to find 2 off this play.
That is huge, because that should get them the Dragon off the back of that as well. Not the cleanest execution as the Cosmic Binding missed, the Deadly Flourish missed, the Seismic Shove missed, but they chased him down. They get the kill. They kill the support. I want to see them go straight towards this Dragon. They aren't going for it just yet, though. They're just playing towards Otacon. This is definitely riskier, but we can see that BLG is going for the Dragon on the other side, so this should be theirs. It does mean, though, that BLG will move to Soul Point here very early on.
I felt like BLG was doing such a good job of suffocating AL. The fact that Bin was just holding that wave in the bot lane, they were playing around Knight safely on the top side of the map. I love that AL recognized, okay, we got to try and do something to try and break open the map a little bit more. They find a nice pick, and they quickly convert it into the Artican. With those petals secured, that goal difference is going to mean a lot less as second items are being completed across the board. It's a very tense game 1 here between the 2 LPL representatives.
About 1,000 to 1.5k worth of effective stats from those petals right now. So AL will be happy with the exchange, but putting the enemy team on soul point is not something you really want. Gold basically even between the 2 of them.
especially against AL's composition in particular, which is a lot of upfront damage, is a lot of bursts. You know, I do think Mountain Soul also kind of uniquely effective against Jhin, who does more damage the lower you do get. Well, Mountain Soul makes it a lot harder to actually knock you down with that explosive engage from the Wukong, with the seismic shove to follow it up. So AL, you know, have been playing the map, have the Otacon, have the combat stats from that, but they're still not even up gold whatsoever. BLG is the one that are up gold and have really powerful scaling in the soul lanes and have 3 dragon advantage. So I think BLG definitely getting the better end of the trades.
I will say, Bin is up 70 CS and
Bin
there's a 90
right
gold
now.
difference. I mean, oh,
Emperor's
nice.
Ride coming out. Flandre tries to go in with a Dark Procession. There's the Temper Fade as well with a teleport in time. Knight escapes.
That was close. That was very, very close. Knight able to escape. BLG now have position on the mid lane. This should be a tower secured. They're second of the game. Nicely done, opens up. A good collapse comes through from AL, but it doesn't quite convert into a kill.
And now BLG can path up towards this top side, gate AL away from any of this jungle, and allow Bin the opportunity to take the 3rd tower of the game, extending his gold lead to about 430.
And the petals are worth about 1,500 golden stats for AL, so that does mean, you know, as far as combat stats, pretty even here. We can see this one more time, looking for the engage on a Knight. He immediately goes for the TP out because the cage is used. That's the only way that York can actually interrupt it. It was with the edge of the cage. As soon as that's on cooldown, starts the TP. Bard ult, a split second too late there from Kyle.
And that Bard ultimate about 1/3 of the way from coming back off cooldown. Don't expect BLG to be really able to punish that in any way with no major objectives up for the next 2 minutes. But let's have a quick look at where we are in terms of items. 2 items on both the AD carries. Elk 3 stacks away from finish his Mana Mune. Leandries and Seraphs complete for Shanks, whereas Knight has his Nash's, Rylai's, and another Haunting Guys in his inventory.
I mean, we're pretty much dead even at 2 items apiece, except for Tarzan, who does not yet have his 2nd item. I do believe by the time we do get this next dragon, though, he's going to have that completed. So it should be pretty much a dead even fight as far as the combat stats are concerned between these 2 teams, and it feels like this is a game that is going to be decided at this next dragon. If AL are able to deny it, the game goes on. If BLG do take it, it feels like they really get a stranglehold.
On paper, my instincts give BLG the advantage in the straight-up 5 versus 5. When I think about Corki plus Azir, the range, the poke, and also just the consistent damage, the backline threat that Bin's going to have onto Hope, the amount of peel that Kayle can provide, I think is going to be the biggest difference maker. How is that Bard ultimate used? What does it actually do? Who does it CC up? Can they find a nice Talia combo? Will Tarzan actually make it impossible for Elk to play in the fight? When it comes to watching 2 LPL teams fight, I mean, that's the beauty of it. They give us some of the best team fighting teams in the world.
I mean, I feel like AL basically has to start the fight off by killing Elk or Knight, or they're just not going to win, right? And that is very difficult because I do think the range advantage is also on BLG's side. You know, when you are trying to go forward, you're having to fight through the Trundle, through the Jax, through the Pop Blossom to actually reach these carries that are going to be so powerful. So I do think AL is in a uniquely difficult position, and it's going to mean that Kyle's going to have to get creative, find a really good Bard ult, or Tarzan's going to have to come from an unexpected angle. Otherwise, things are going to get very, very tough.
Just to note, like, we've been talking a lot about Bin's farm, but he is close to the Flame Horizon. I'm curious as to whether or not he'll be able to get it in this game, as the dragon spawns in about 50 seconds.
Big completion there for Bin. Does now have the Seekers that he just actually purchased. So yes, he's not on that 3rd item, but Seekers is in. Another Mask coming through, another Zeal coming through. So the gold lead is at least showing itself in some partial completions there that are pretty impactful.
We have really only been talking about Bin and how well he's been CSing in that isolated top lane matchup, but look at Knight, look at Elk, both of them going at well over 10 CS a minute as well, whereas on the other side, Hope is about there, Shanks is 30 CS down, Flandre is 60 CS down. 3 Chovies on one team, apparently, here for BLG, as they've been doing a really good job of being in the right position on the map, making sure they get that farm, denying it from the enemy teams as well.
And to me, a lot of it was just about the early lane assignments. I think the AL really kind of mismanaged that. Flandre was completely starved on the top side. Well, Bin spent a couple minutes on bot side just getting every bit of farming experience uncontested.
Right now, everyone is gathering in the mid lane because they know how important this dragon is. It's BLG that get the push. Knight takes a bit of damage down. He will put the turret up in mid, making it harder for BLG to approach through the mid lane. The dragon started off. Tarzan has found an angle to the bot side.
BLG are losing waves to that bot lane tower, but they won't really mind about that right now. Tarzan looking for the flank position. BLG don't have great vision around here. Only on the top side of the river, really, they have eyes, whereas Kyle stepping forward, putting a control ward in. Shanks still looking for the flank. Bin trying to mark anyone that comes around the back of the blue buff. On with a good route. There's the Counter-Strike follow-up. And Kyle has to pop the heal. Tempered Fate's going to land onto a couple. But the Drake's still very healthy. Seismic Shove only onto one, but it's on and he's off. As AL begin to turn the fight in their favor. They're still looking for this dragon. The curtain's open. This Jin wants an encore. Cyclone doesn't hold them in range. A Counter-Strike out by Bin as BLG retreats.
Whoa, that was a very tense fight. Both sides fighting for position, but given that BLG actually had position in the river first, AL had to play it slow and rely on their poke. I was worried for Kyle, but we talked about how that Bard ultimate could be a game changer. He connects it, and they find the pick.
I mean, this is really nicely done. It does look like Kyle's going to be in a lot of trouble. It's on caught him, and Bin jumps in, but they can't quite 100-0 him. He gets back, and then this ulti right here. Look at the Seismic Shove. Last time, they were not on point. This time, it is perfectly timed. They land the Cosmic Binding, even with the flash. Bin is stunned on the other side of the flash. On gets deleted. Now, Bin has no way to access the backline without that flash. They get the first kill. They chase them out and take the dragon. Really well executed there from Kyle and Shanks. The Seismic Shove, perfect.
And catching out On as well, who has the Pop Blossom, who has the Hextech Rocket Belt, who has the Flash. That's when you can really funnel forward and try and take the fight, because it is Kyle who will be jumping, it's On who will be jumping on towards that backline. Still, though, for BLG, they're on Soul Point. It's a mountain up in 4 minutes time. They still have a gold lead of about 1,000, but as we said, the petals kind of even that out for AL. Third items on their way here for anyone's legend, as although the game hasn't had too many kills, it's been incredibly back and forth between these two teams from the LPL.
Yeah, we kind of return to a farm state right now. Of course, the Baron, ooh, ultimate used by Kyle, forces the Rocket Belt out from On. But yeah, right now it's mainly just, again, the contest for position. With so many of the towers gone, AO would love to secure this mid tower, but it's a very difficult siege against Azir and the Corki. So instead, they're going to set up for some vision around Baron as they look for a reset.
Yeah, and it has been really interesting because clearly Flandre not that confident to actually push in for that 1v1 against Bin. Bin has been able to scale through the early levels, has this big farm advantage. That has kept him in the gold lead despite some of the kills in the towers going the way of the Yorick. So it hasn't really been much about the side lane. It is kind of one of these weird situations where if you can't get prio side lanes as the Yorick, you just have to group, you have to fight, you have to find ways to be able to be effective in a difficult situation.
One of the things I think AL did quite well in the previous fight was making sure Bin can't find a flank. And historically, whenever I think of Bin on Jax, his flanks have always been one of the most terrifying elements of him on this champion. The way he finds creative ways to gain access onto the backline, creating chaos in the midst of the fight and just ruining that coordination is something that I think AL is respecting and doing their best to play around. But they're going to have to keep doing that because, as we talked about earlier, BLG in the straight up front to back, we still do give them the edge with their composition.
Yeah, and you can see
looking onto Kyle, doesn't have the flash, doesn't have the heal, and he is done for. Elk gets the kill, the curtain's open. As Hope tries to avenge his fallen support, will land the shots on, but he's tanky enough to survive through them, has that Warden's Mail complete.
They got the TP off of Flandre and Knight there, so Bin is going to have TP advantage. Yes, Shanks could potentially match him, but Beishuan getting aggressive here.
To dodge away from the Deadly Flush and avoids the Seismic Shove. AO still have a bit of vision around this pit, but that's now cleared out by Beishuan. Knight's going to start up the Baron. Anyone's legend. Don't have vision yet, but Tarzan and Hope are on their way. Their prying eyes will spy the fact that BLG have started the Baron. Flandre jumped on by Knight, though. The Emperor's Divide will knock him back, but meanwhile on the top side of the fight, the Cyclone comes out. Beishuan has to flash out of the back of the pit as Elk tries to put some more damage down. Flandre dead, BLG find another, Kyle's back alive.
Yeah, Beishuan barely gets out, had almost no HP. You could hardly see the health bar there, but he does survive. They kill off Flandre. And Kyle is back, so they are able to stave off the Baron attempt here from BLG, but they do still come up with that additional kill. It does cost Knight his flash, but they got the flash off of both Flandre and Tarzan, so kind of Summoners just being traded back and forth.
It was a tense night on two fronts where Knight fight on two fronts.
I'm sure he was tense as well, Benny.
As AL find a really nice engage onto BLG while they're not collectively attacking the Baron. The fact that they could kind of split BLG up looked very favorable for AL, even though they were at a numbers disadvantage. But then once BLG was able to disengage from the Baron fight and then provide protection for Knight, you could see how quickly the fight turned in their favor.
The big thing for AL, though, is there aren't flashes available on BLG anymore. Only Elk has his up. I think Bins is going to be off cooldown before we have a fight around the Dragon. But if they can land a good Tempered Fate, the follow-up is absolutely absurd from this team. They have so much long-range lockdown. They have the Curtain Call. They have the Weaver's Wall as well to split out the fight. BLG need to be cautious about how they navigate this next fight.
They absolutely do, but it's not the easiest champions to actually land that on. Even the Trundle, you can drop the Frozen Domain, for the additional move speed. You have the Dead Man's Plate. You have, obviously, the ability to dash on the Corki and on the Azir and on the Jax and even the Rocket Belt here for On. So there's a lot of tools they have to dodge it out. Pressure big on Kyle.
On dodging away from the Tempered Fate there. AL once again pathing down towards the bottom side, trying to get some purchase in this river. Bin looking for the flank. He'll jump into the pit. On separated, but gets on the right side of the Weaver's Wall as BLG start up the Dragon. On doesn't have the flash, but that Pop Blossom can be deadly. AL trying to gain some purchase in the river here. BLG holding them at bay. There's a pillar. On still looking for that flank. Kyle now marking him as BLG will take the 4v4. Kyle on up towards the top side, but there's the Pop Blossom. The mountain secured by Tarzan, and he'll get a kill off the back of it as well. BLG separated. The dive in from Knight, knocked back with the seismic shove. Shanks will fall. Beishuan almost follows. The curtains open. Hope wants an encore. He lands one onto Bin. Beishuan will die up towards the top side. Bin dashes away. Knight trying to open up, but he just doesn't have the damage. Rooted with a deadly flourish and taken out by anyone's legend.
Massive fight there for AL. Tarzan gets the smite, critically denying the Mountain Soul in what was such a close fight here.
We look at how things started out. Bin is looking for access onto the backline, while Kyle is doing his best to keep On from getting the engage off Tarzan with a beautiful smite steal. We're back to life.
TP'd in. He's looking for more of a fight, but the ghouls will keep him at bay alongside the Dark Possession. Bin won't find anything more.
Had no vision to actually jump on them over the wall there.
The main takeaway from that last fight was how AL just, again, controlled the flanks. We talked earlier about how they were cautious of Bin finding that flank. This time around, it was making sure that On couldn't get it. But even when he did, the follow-up from BLG, they just couldn't quite close that gap. The amount of zone control that AL was able to provide meant that their fight was ultimately... They didn't have the coordination needed to pull the fight off.
I also really like how AL is playing these fights so aggressively, and it feels like they're always the ones putting the pressure on the enemy carries. On doesn't feel like he has been able to get into the backline whatsoever, and you look at every fight, Hope is just chilling in the backline, channeling his ultimate, being able to have the space to get done when he needs to get done. And now some of these luxury items are starting to come through here for AL as well. You can see the GA now completed there for Tarzan, and that is going to be a big one. Is going to be able to full send it on someone like Knight or Elk, push them back in this fight, and again, continue to create more space for his carries that have been performing so well.
AL have control over the river right now. On trying to step forward and garner some back here for BLG. On the back foot as AL start up the Baron. BLG playing for the mid lane prio, but AL calling their bluff. There's the Temper Fate onto Beishuan. The Baron's still at 10,000. On goes in! And On finds them all! The Emperor will find his mark as well. The Guardian Angel and Tarzan brings him back, but Knight's already dead. AL looking for a little bit more here as they could jump further forward. Bin trying to dive in. Shanks low, the seismic shove will connect, but Elk's on a killing spree. On trying to trade with Tarzan down towards the bottom side. Beishuan chasing out Hope towards the top. Blandre and Tarzan will find a double. Beishuan will try and get back in the pit. He doesn't have smite right now. But with the Maiden, AL might be able to keep him at bay.
A perfect wombo combo still wasn't enough to beat AL in the fight. Two members will stay alive to start the Baron off. Beishuan is hovering, threatening the steal.
Beishuan almost has flashback.
We'll have the flash. The smite still on cooldown. Tarzan sticking on the Baron right now as Beishuan tries to find a way back into this pit. Doesn't have vision on the Baron. Now does. Loses it again. He's dodging back and forth. 3,000 on the Baron. Beishuan kept at bay by Flandre, but has the flash. He jumps in. Looking for the chop, but it's Tarzan once again who wins the smite fight.
Tarzan coming up massive for AL. And though the engage looked so good from On, the follow-up was way too slow. Most of the carries couldn't really get there. Knight had to commit everything just to get in range for this follow-up. So let's watch this one more time. Look at where Elk is. Look at where the rest of the team is. Look at those three. Yes, the engage looks great, but where's the team? They're behind the wall. They can't get there and get the damage done during the CC. So though it looks beautiful, The follow-up isn't there from Bin. Beishuan can't get there, Elk can't get there, and AL wins anyway.
Another Tempered Fate finds its mark. Elk the target though for AL as they chase him down. On with a Pop Blossom, only finds a single root, and that's 2 more to anyone's legend.
Pick after pick, AL with the Baron are sieging through these towers. They're collecting the standing gold. A root connects on the Knight.
Flashes away from the seismic shot. The Ghouls will chase him from that morning mist. And now BLG are wondering, how do we defend 35 seconds before Elk is back on the Rift? On has 20, seeing Grayscale as well. AL with this Baron push could just end the game.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Grubs, look at the York. They're crushing through these towers so fast.
Knight is here. Emperor's Divide available. The Dark Possessions try and keep him away. Bin trying to trade back in, but he just can't find a way into that backline. The Counter-Strike used only defensively as the first Nexus Tower falls. On his way, he's a minion. He'll get the root down. Tarzan dives in with the Cyclone. Bin trying to get on the backline as well with the Counter-Strike, but Bin is gone. Flandre sends him to the Shadow Isles. Knight jumps onto the backline. Shank's still surviving alongside
Elk's
Hope.
back.
And Knight is down. Elk is up, but he's the only one for his team right now as he tries to defend his Nexus, and AL won't give him a moment to breathe. Say the last rites for BLG. Flandre puts a shovel in his head and claims game 1.
A deathless game for Tarzan, with some immaculate steals denying the soul from BLG, some crazy team fighting, and then rounding it out with some fantastic picks. AL cement a solid victory to start off this series.